It's the 4th of the 2nd. I'm Arthur Falls, and this is episode 26. What follows is not investment advice. The BitSquare project, covered in episode 9, aims to finally solve the problem of decentralized fiat-to-crypto exchange. Founded in the wake of the $500 million Mt. Gox catastrophe, BitSquare's goal is to pair automated escrow and third-party arbitration to allow trustless peer-to-peer currency trading. Considering the havoc wreaked by the archaic centralized exchange model, BitSquare should be considered among the most important development efforts in cryptocurrency. They've proven their ability to deliver working code, have a clear and in-depth public roadmap, and extensive documentation. It's astounding to think then that such an important project may be shuttered just because those involved worked too much and talked too little. Usually this show gets about 10,000 listens. If only 29 of you will match my 3 Bitcoin donation, we can keep them going for another couple of months, hopefully long enough to find ongoing financial backing and additional Java programmers to speed up development. If that's too steep for you, maybe have a look at liquidating some of those junk assets in the old counter wallet. Every little bit helps, and it's only through the generosity of the community that projects like this get completed. Funding ends on the 9th of this month. That's 5 days away. Today, Fernando Gutierrez and Evan Duffield discuss Darkcoin. Far more than just an anonymous version of Bitcoin, Darkcoin takes advantage of cutting-edge innovations found across the second-generation space. A mining network is paired with a network of bonded transaction processing nodes which securely mix funds and secure various types of transactions, as well as ensure a healthy collection of full nodes. We have sporks, we have instant transactions, two-factor authentication on the way, and much more on offer from this year-old currency. Obviously, people had faith in the Darkcoin project early on for whatever reason. I don't really know. I remember looking at Darkcoin and I wanted to buy I wanted to invest in anonymity in an anonymous currency, and I wound up buying a non-coin. And wow, I mean, just to think, I looked at Darkcoin and I looked at a non-coin. I was like, well, you know, a non-coin says they're going to implement the zero coin protocol, so I guess that's probably the one to go for. I don't know, Darkcoin, it's probably just another. I didn't really research it that much, and then to see Darkcoin explode in value, I was absolutely kicking myself.
Now, I guess that's happened to all us who have been in altcoins, because market is absolutely crazy. I came back to this in February 2014 because I had a brief contact with Bitcoin in 2012. And I was going to buy, but it was one of those moments in which it increased price threefold in a week. And it went up like to $14. And I was like, no, that's obviously a bubble. That's crazy. So I didn't buy, and I waited because obviously it's going to go back to $5, $7, something like that. And then soon after that, it was like at $100, and I just stopped looking and completely quit, considering myself a stealer.
Yeah.
But this year I came back and I discovered altcoins, and I saw that some of them made a lot of sense. But since the first day, it's like, oh, I should have been in this one. It went up in price like 80% in a day. And it's this race to find the one that is gonna succeed and all that. And in the end, I decided to change to a different approach because I started to get involved with Darkcoin, and I really enjoyed. And to me, it became more about being present in this world and knowing about everything and knowing people, because I think I'm probably not gonna be. I don't have a huge stash of Darkcoins, and I don't think that I'm gonna be, because I think that's basically lottery, being the first day in a coin or the first week and getting really a huge value from that. I don't believe I will be super rich because of any altcoin investment I make. But I believe that being around, you can be near a lot of opportunities, and those are the projects which are not directly investing, but probably starting things around cryptocurrencies, I think that's a much bigger opportunity. So I stopped looking at prices and investing in the last launch to see if it really goes crazy. Because I've discovered I'm terrible at that game. Anyway.
Me too. And the thing is, the people who really do succeed, they are sure that they're really good at it. But I wonder how much of that is just sheer luck.
Absolutely. I think that also if some of them had a lot of luck early on, and then they have a buffer of cash to play with. So let's say if you made a lot of money from the early Bitcoin, and I mean you have some people do have millions, but there's plenty of people with a few $100,000. I mean those people can put a few thousands in and place a lot of small bets and then ride them, and they are always going to be in the winning field. They're not going to tell you about all the other small bets that didn't go well. So I don't really believe there's so many good people at this game. I think there's people who believe they are good, but I'm not that sure.
Well, I'm wondering, are you comfortable talking about the dark market value of Darkcoin? I know there's a generally negative stigma around that, but at the same time, for me, that seems like the only place where there's actually proven value for cryptocurrency. Are you guys distancing yourselves actively from the dark markets, or what's your opinion on that?
My personal opinion is that it doesn't make much sense to forbid everything everywhere, and I do believe that probably it's much safer to buy drugs if you want to buy them online than in the street around the corner. But we are not going to pursue that market. I mean, if they use it, obviously we can't do anything about that. But we don't want to be the coin for dark markets, even though we have a name that may make you think that we won't. We've talked many times about even changing the name to be more mainstream, because probably there is a market there, and it's a huge market even for Bitcoin, and it's undeniable. But I do believe that there is much more that can be done with cryptocurrencies and with Darkcoin in particular. When we launched the foundation recently, a couple of months ago, I prepared the website and set up everything. We even thought about accepting also fiat money to pay for memberships, because some people didn't want to spend their cryptocurrencies, because right now it's not easy to get crypto. So once you have them, many people prefer to keep them. But in the end, we decided not to accept fiat, and we only accepted Darkcoins and also Bitcoin, because some people prefer to pay with Bitcoin. But I was able to set up everything in days, and we started receiving payments from all around the world, real time. You saw the money in your wallet, and that was really powerful. I was convinced before that about the power of cryptocurrencies, but those days of setting up, launching, and starting to see money coming in and being in our control, compared to setting up a PayPal account and then people pay you their money is inside your account until PayPal decides the risk is already low and you can withdraw it. For me, that was a huge wide opener, even more than before. And I do really believe that privacy is important. Yeah, talking more particular about Darkcoin. And it's not only if you don't want to buy illegal things. There are a lot of risks on the internet that we should try to avoid. And an open blockchain, I do believe, can be dangerous. It's not only, I mean, there are many reasons, apart from the philosophical one, that, I mean, if you know that they are looking, you behave differently. But, I mean, it's hackers. We've recently had news about early Bitcoin adopters being blackmailed also governments. Obviously, you and I live in democratic countries with some respect from our rights, but not everybody has that luck. And also, you know what will happen in the future. I don't believe that New Zealand will go, there'll be an army taking control of everything and converting it into a dictatorship, but it could happen, and your transactions are already there, and they are there forever. And maybe there's something you would prefer them not to see. And there is also companies. I mean, the data mining capabilities that are already available today are amazing. And it's not only that they can follow your transactions. I mean, they could profile you. This case, somewhere in the US, Target sent a girl a pregnancy catalog, and his father went crazy and went to Target to know why they had sent this catalog to a 16-year-old girl. And it turned out that she was pregnant, and they had known about that because she had bought some creams and things that popped up in their database as the things that pregnant women do. So they already knew she was pregnant before her family. And then they started to disguise the offers they sent to people. And they just included other random offers in the vouchers they send them.
By like exploiting purchase patterns and browsing patterns.
Or think about health insurance company profiling you and then denying you coverage because they decide that the pattern they get from your purchases makes you too risky for them, and you don't know what's happened. But I mean, that information is out there in the open. Obviously, it's not that easy to link it with people, but I mean, a health insurance company could eventually buy data from a Bitcoin exchange and then get some data. Right now, it doesn't make any sense because the Bitcoin space or the cryptocurrency space is tiny compared to other things. But if this goes big, there could be a lot of interest in that data mining, the blockchain. The other day, I read an article, I don't know if that it's true or not, that IRS was searching for big transactions that were not declared, and they were targeting some early Bitcoin adopters. I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do know is that there's risk for all these activities to happen around the blockchain, that if you obscure them, you would be much safer. That's why I think it's important to have privacy.
I recently had this incredible interview, or a couple of interviews with these guys recently. Because I'm finishing the podcast, I've got so much, I have so much interviewing and stuff to get out of the way, to tie up all the loose ends, you know? And I had this amazing discussion with these guys about balancing the cypherpunk privacy ethos with, or mission, with practical implementation and like practical use of these things, and how some value must be transacted in the clear, in the open, for all to see. But at the same time, that doesn't diminish the value of transacting in the dark, you know, and the need to transact in the dark. I mean, that is an essential need that we have to fulfill. And yeah, it's there's that balance between the practical side of things and playing ball with the world as it expects you to, and fulfilling the requirements that are laid out by business and government, but at the same time, always being able to circumvent those somehow. You do need to have some escape from their system in order to live a comfortable life without self-censorship.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe there are reasons, and there's many people doing interesting things in this space. Many interesting people doing things that partially serve in terms of ideology. But as I said, this project is more about a refined Bitcoin with some things on top that we believe make it a much better currency. But we are not looking to be the perfect dark market coin, or the coin for those trying to hide their taxes.
The thing is, I think right now there's this view of the dark markets as a purely criminal enterprise, but like you said before, if you want to hide your value transactions from an oppressive government, or say a government that is suffering, a nation that's suffering a trade embargo or trade restrictions by an external government, you may need to transact in the dark, say potentially through a dark market, just to maintain engagement with the outside economy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, yeah, absolutely. That can be quite important. Or nations that are imposing terrible monetary limits, like Argentina or Venezuela, they forbid their nationals their citizens to buy other currencies, and they have like an official exchange rate, which is crazy. And those people can keep on doing whatever they are doing if they have an alternative. I do believe that money is being used to control people a lot, and this gives some freedom back.
And that's the power of anonymity, and I suppose that's the alternative value network that Darkcoin is building. The makeup of the Darkcoin network is it still X11?
Yeah, it's X11, the algorithm for mining.
Obviously, that's completely ASIC resistant and infinitely so. Like, it can never be ASIC, can it?
I've heard that it's not possible, but every day something that was not possible is invented.
Yeah.
ASICs, anyway. Sometimes big players are maybe good in certain circumstances. We'll see. Anyway, it's almost the time I told Evan to be ready. He has wrote me that he's around.
Okay, let's add him to the conversation.
Hello.
Hello, Evan. How are you doing?
I guess we may as well get into it. Starting off, do you guys want to each introduce yourselves? I guess starting with you, Evan, and then you, Fernando.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Evan Duffield, the creator of Darkcoin. I live in the U.S. in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been into Bitcoin since I think about mid 2010. It's been a while. And I was fascinated ever since the beginning with it. And then eventually, after like watching all of these things happen in the community with anonymity and everything, I got this idea of how to make a cryptocurrency to kind of fix some of these core issues, and that's how Darkcoin came about originally. But we can get into that later.
And you, Fernando?
Yeah, and I'm Fernando Gutierrez. I'm in Spain, and I joined the Darkcoin project a few months after it was launched. I started like any other guy. I just bought a few because I felt attracted towards the concept, and then I started to interact with the community and with Evan, and I simply couldn't stop. And right now I'm part of the team with somehow ambiguous job, because I do a bit of everything. I'm not a developer. I don't code, but I organize things around the community. I did the website. I put time on whatever is needed. And then I'm also, like Evan, we are both in the board of directors of the Darkcoin Foundation that we recently created.
What's your background, Fernando?
I'm a lawyer and I'm an entrepreneur. I own a couple small businesses and do real estate investments for a living. But I've always been fascinated by technology. And when I discovered cryptocurrencies, it mixed everything I loved. Economy and technology, mathematics, and all put together was like the perfect field to get involved.
Cool. So The first question, I guess I have for you, Evan. How do you frame the problem that Darkcoin is designed to solve?
So I think the issue is something that's going to come up more and more frequently over the next 10 years. And it's going to become very apparent of what's going on. And the issue is that when you do a transaction on the Bitcoin network or any of these cryptocurrencies, there's a public record, and it's a one-to-one relationship from where the money was to where the money's going. And then that information is literally accessible on everybody's machine that runs a full node forever. And at any point into the future, if somebody identifies who you are and who they are, now they know what happened in that one instance. So if you can figure out somebody's addresses, if you figure out a lot of people's addresses, you can mine that data. And it's not a problem so much now. It's a problem later after all of that information becomes available, because then it becomes a gross invasion of privacy. And 10 years or 15 years of data instantly becomes available about all these people. So that's really the fundamental problem that I see.
What makes Darkcoin unique?
Darkcoin it's a technology where I saw Bitcoin and I was thinking, okay, there's a few problems with Bitcoin. One, it needs full nodes because you need propagation to work really quickly. You need people to be able to sync really fast to the network and get up to speed. And you need some sort of anonymity, and you need fast block time confirmation. And all of these can be accomplished within Darkcoin, but the technology that we're using to do that just wasn't compatible with Bitcoin, and their developers made it very well known that they weren't willing to do hard forks. So we wanted to go out of our way to create something where it's just in a completely different direction than where they were going. And we feel it's a better direction. It's a superior direction. So there will be a market eventually for a cryptocurrency that, values its users' privacy and is faster and more efficient. And we're willing to do hard forks. We've actually done a bunch of them successfully. And the Bitcoin developers have always been very scared of that. So we also feel that is another advantage.
The idea or the value proposition behind Litecoin is largely that because it's a smaller network, because it's worth less than Bitcoin, they can afford to innovate more radically and do these kind of hard forks and do this kind of stuff. But we haven't seen them do it. And yet you say yourself, you're hard forking, you're changing your code. In fact, you've recently changed from a fork of Litecoin to a fork of Bitcoin in order to adopt all of the development that's taken place on the Bitcoin core in the interim. Is that approach that you've taken, is that something that you see as one of the chief offerings of Darkcoin, this rapid change and freedom to innovate?
The freedom to innovate is important, and not being scared of that. Because with Darkcoin, I invented something that the community calls the spork, which it allows you to remotely turn on a hard fork on the network. And if something goes wrong, you can actually turn it off. And then the network goes back to the state where it was before. So there was no damage. And so you can do hard fork after hard fork. And as long as you have that fallback mode, there's no risk to the network.
But
go ahead.
I was gonna say that even before having that, we did a few hard forks. One of the things that was really surprising for some people, it was how brave the development team was in terms of doing hard forks. And if something went wrong, we reversed a few of them. I mean, there was this constant pace of innovation and new features and doing whatever it took to launch everything.
That's this idea of the spork. I haven't heard of it before. Can can either of you guys elaborate on how it works in a kind of semi-technical way, but not something absolutely crushingly advanced?
Sure. So there's a cryptographic key, and I hold the key. And whenever you want to turn on the spork, you send a message and it propagates across the network. It uses, if you're familiar with the code, it uses something similar to the way alerts work. So you sign a message with the secret key that only one group has, and then that propagates and that activates it. And then you can alter that message a little bit and it will turn it off.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And there's a block of code that says, if spork, do this.
Easy as that. Does it have any, is there any way, I suppose, actually, I mean, that's what we need to cover about spork, because that's seems pretty easy to understand, and anything beyond that is going to get pretty technical, I imagine. Now, you invented X11, didn't you, Evan?
Yeah, that was the first offering of Darkcoin.
And that was the first advantage, you mean, or?
Yeah. Basically, I took 11 algorithms and I chained them together. And at the time, I wasn't even aware of this, but when we started to get GPU miners, they noticed that it ran a lot cooler. And it ran cooler because there's these pauses between the algorithms when the GPUs have to change. And those pauses allow the equipment not to run as hot or as hard. And none of the other algorithms actually offer that to the miners. So we got this huge influx of mining power, which was pretty amazing. And I think last year it was one of the most popular algorithms out there.
So those pauses, do they occur when the GPU's memory has to be emptied out and then refilled with the new algorithm? Is that what takes place?
Yeah, exactly.
Now that you're on this trajectory, you've got Darkcoin. It's doing really well. It took off and it actually surpassed Litecoin briefly there. And I kind of think of Litecoin and Darkcoin kind of as competing for a similar niche. How do you feel? How do you see Darkcoin moving forward, and what kind of prospects for adoption and value creation for the token do you see? Say in the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years?
So there's a whole list of technologies that we have on the agenda for the next year. So we have X11 currently. We have DarkSend, masternodes. I can actually go over all of these individually if you want, but I'll name them for now. So X11, DarkSend, masternodes, and then we're going to have Instant X. And we want to do a type of two-factor authentication that's in the core wallet. So it would require somebody's phone to move funds. So you could have a hot wallet that's, so like regularly you'd move like funds that you need protected to like a cold wallet, but you could have them in a hot wallet and guarded with two-factor authentication, which would be pretty nice. And then after that, we want to do IP protection so that you can broadcast a message and they can't figure out which IP it came from on the network. Beyond that, I'm not so sure. That's probably about 7 months of development, maybe.
The next thing I want to talk about is the two-factor authentication, because I know that as soon as that gets played, everyone's ears are going to prick up. So I'd like to cover that, but also, what do you see as the actual value, what do you see bringing value to Darkcoin, as in like actual monetary value? So right now it's chugging along at about $6 million market cap, with relatively respectable trading volume. What do you see increasing the market cap of Darkcoin?
Well, I think it'll come from people adopting and using the technologies that it brings to the table. So imagine a network where you can use it and there's tons of full nodes. So syncing's really quick. Like it's like using a light version of the wallet without using one. And then you have anonymity. So if you want to protect your identity, you can. And then there's instant transactions. So on the Bitcoin network, you can broadcast something and a vendor can take it with 0 confirmations. But if a miner comes out and releases a conflicting transaction, it will actually reverse that. Whereas on the Darkcoin network, I've actually eliminated the possibility of that happening with what we're calling Instant X. So we could do instantaneous transactions where they confirm in like 20 seconds, and you could like buy a TV online or something like that.
You know, you have 2 networks, don't you, with Darkcoin? You have the mining network, and then you have this distributed network of masternodes that are kind of have to put up funds in order to become a masternode. They get a predefined set of the issued of the mining rewards, and they have a special role within the network, don't they?
Yes, this second network is probably not as important as important innovation as DAX and our anonymity technology or instant transaction is, because all they rely on it. The idea is that with all these servers online, you can make them work, and you can, in the case of Darksend, we are using them to coordinate the mixing of funds. And in the case of instant transaction, they validate transactions as soon as they are done and then lock the funds. So there's no possibility of double spending. And this network is as distributed and as decentralized as the mining network. Right now we have around 2,000 masternodes, 50 up, 50 down, depending on the day. As you said, owners need to put up some funds, but they are not at risk. They can keep them on their computers. The only thing is that you can't spend them while you have the masternode running. And in exchange for that, you receive, as you said, a part of the block reward. Right now it's 35%, but it's going up, and it will end up around 60% probably in 2016. So it's a good investment, in fact. Right now, with current rewards and number of masternodes, people who put the needed money are getting around 20% return in Darkcoin.
So you're weighting the value to the network, or the incentive to participate in the network is weighted heavily toward these masternodes, much more heavily than mining. So is that to say that mining really is a kind of a second class citizen on the Darkcoin network?
No, absolutely not. In fact, right now the masternodes get a lower reward than the miners. It's 35 for masternodes, 65 for miners, but both things are needed. And the special features that Darkcoin have are reliant on masternodes. So we need a healthy network of masternodes, and those masternodes also have some costs. I mean, you need to pay for the hosting, the data transmission. So it's not that one is more important than the other. We need both. The hash power has already been there in mining because people mine Darkcoin, and they will keep mining it as long as Darkcoin works. And if Darkcoin works and the price goes up, it doesn't matter the percentage of the reward you get, because it's going to be profitable. And for it to be profitable and the price to go up, we need the features that masternodes allow to have. It's right now are these two, but who knows what we can build on top of that.
And so what are those unique features that masternodes offer to the network? And what are the costs associated with having a second network, apart from dividing the mining rewards?
Well, to explain how Darkcoin works, probably Evan is going to do it much better than me.
You there, Evan?
We've lost him.
I think we might have. We have, yeah, we lost him. I wasn't even watching. All right, here I'll. Hey, Evan, we lost you there for a second. We were having a really great time just cracking on.
Yeah, that was weird. My phone just, I guess, gave up on the call.
We were talking about the advantages and disadvantages of masternodes, and yeah, we figured you might be the guy to lay them out, like what masternodes offer, and also the cost of including a scheme like that into the network.
So masternodes to me are it's a great way for somebody who's already invested in the currency to actually earn a little bit extra money while actually supporting the network. And for just like a normal investor like that, it creates this great dynamic, because otherwise the money that they invested into the currency, they'd just have the currency and it would just be sitting there doing nothing. But in this scheme, you can put that currency into masternodes, put those things online, and then they service the network all the time, and you earn interest, so it pays for the server fees and everything. And you can host all of these like really cool services. So I think it's a great addition to the technology of Bitcoin.
And what are the services that masternodes enable?
Well, they're full nodes, so they provide syncing for clients. They provide propagation. They're actually stable points to connect to at any point when a new client gets online. So they're served up by the seed peers. That's all like normal stuff that the Bitcoin network does. And then beyond that, they mix coins for the anonymization of money. And they also perform the service of Instant X. Beyond that, who knows what they'll do in the future. I think they'll have some part of the two-factor authentication process, because that will require decentralization.
And also, it's important to notice that for all those services, we need this network to be as big as possible, because it's all about probabilities of being traced back in the case of Darkcent, or interfered with instant transactions. That's why we need to incentivize the creation of new masternodes, and that's why part of the reward goes to them, because the bigger the number, the more secure are those services.
So let's look at the anonymization scheme. So could you explain how the anonymization works, Evan?
The best way, I think, to explain it is to imagine you're in a room and you're sitting around a table, and there's three people sitting around the table, and the three people pull out their wallets and they take all of the bills out of their wallet, and then all three of them put all the bills in the center of the table. Now a fourth guy comes up and he grabs the bills and shuffles them around in his hand and puts the wad of cash back down, and then each person takes the amount of money that they're owed back. Now, who knows like which serial number was on which bill and which serial number belonged in whose wallet, right? Because you're just grabbing, I had a 5, I had a 10, and I had a 20, right? So that's kind of how the anonymization works. There's denominations, and then there's these pools where lots of denominations come together, and then they come together in a big wad of cash, basically, like the illustration. And then the people take back the money. But all of this is completely done in a secure, trustless way. So there's actually no risk of you even losing your money during it. And the process consists of more than one masternode, because the masternode knows whose money belonged to who in that one step. So then another masternode would come over and the process would repeat, and then another one, and then another one. And after 8 or 10 of those, there's no way that anybody could trace it through all of those steps.
So it's an on-chain mixing service, isn't it?
Yes.
How does that affect blockchain bloat?
Well, it's only done when people need it to be done. So it's actually, say, for example, if all coins had to go through 10 of these chains, you would have an enormous amount of bloat. But since it's only people that actually want to use the money for something, or they want like a small anonymous wallet for spending. It's so small. And it's from what we've seen, it's about 1 in 100 transactions that are DarkSend transactions. So there's almost no bloat because of that.
Yeah, that's sweet. So the other thing is Instant X.
So Instant X works off of the same type of probabilities. And the way it works in a nutshell is you, instead of broadcasting just the transaction that you just did, you broadcast this special message saying, I would like to lock these funds. And then that goes out, and through some like mathematics, it selects predeterministically a set of masternodes. So let's say the first one that it selects using this math. So the whole network knows masternode XYZ is in charge of this specific transaction. And then it goes to that one, and then 10 masternodes have to say, yeah, that transaction's valid and it's okay if it's locked. So then all 10 of those sign off on it. They accumulate into this larger message, and then that one is broadcast to the network. That special message allows the actual inputs of that transaction to be locked for a period of time. So even if you tried to spend those inputs, they'd be rejected by the network.
So there's no chance of a double spend because the network is not interested in actually spending those inputs.
Yeah, after there's a lock, it's final.
And
only
sorry, carry on.
Only the master, after the transaction is locked by those master nodes, it's absolutely impossible to spend them on the network. Because go ahead.
No, I was going to say that after that, those transactions are included in the block, but the miner can't include them if they contradict a valid lock.
Right. That's
that's true. That basically it's a hard fork. So if you have a conflicting block with one of these locks, it'll just be outright rejected from the network. But then it allows you to know that once it's locked, it's as good as in a block.
Yeah.
So you could take the money as a vendor and give the person the merchandise that they ordered,
and then wait for that to become confirmed, and then you can spend the coins.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually amazingly simple, and it's kind of funny that hasn't been done already. But that's that.
Well, the complicated part about it is how to secure it in a way that you can't Sybil attack. So let's say anybody could be a master node on the network, and you select 10 master nodes that have to relay this message saying they approve of it. Well, now you could start 10,000 of these nodes, and suddenly everything's confirmed. So you can cheat the system. But with the way master nodes work in DarkSend, you have to have 1,000 Darkcoin per master node. So there's enormous cost to try to trick the system.
Okay, yeah, that's because how are you going to actually get all of those nodes together as well? So you can, but it's deterministic, so you can select your nodes. I'm also interested in what new attacks arise from having this masternode scheme in place.
Well, I've done the best I possibly can to like envision all of the possible attacks that I could think of. So I believe it's pretty well protected. The way the deterministic math works is it takes a block hash in the past that was a proof of work, and then it calculates the hash of one of the master nodes, and the closest master node's hash to that block's proof of work hash is the one that gets elected to perform the instant X. So you would have to somehow be able to predict the proof of work hash, which is impossible because it takes the whole network. And that's where the foundation of all of this stuff starts.
Okay. Cool. So the next thing is the two-factor authentication, and this is something I'm really interested in. As I understood it, there's an extra data field in transaction that is included in transactions that can require a PIN. Is that correct?
The way I was thinking about doing it does not include an extra transaction field. Well, it does when you actually broadcast a transaction that requires the two-factor. It would include whatever the PIN is in the data field when it broadcasts. But let's step back. The two-factor authentication scheme is basically where you have a specific address and you say, I would like to protect this with two-factor authentication. And then you open up your phone, Google Authenticator or whatever the services that we end up using. And you then broadcast a transaction with some data saying that here's the account that this is tied to. And then all of the clients on the network keep track of this specific account is related to this specific two-factor. And any conflicting transaction that doesn't have the proper code for that account would be rejected by the network. So when you want to spend money, then the client will ask you, hey, I need the code for your two-factor device. And then it's input to the data field, and then it's broadcast to the network, and everybody accepts it.
Now, but that data field is included in a transaction with a predefined PIN. Is that, see? Well, no, because the PIN comes from the two. I'm trying to see if this is a way that could, if this two-factor authentication could somehow breach the anonymity of the transaction. You know what I mean?
It shouldn't. So you have a special code on your phone somewhere that says, here's the two-factor authentication account and here's the private key for that. And then you have some kind of public key that you publish to the network. And then whenever you do a transaction related to that account, you give it a code and it puts that code into the data field. So then when that's broadcast, all the people know is this has a two-factor authentication account. Here's the public key and here was the code. And I mean, this is a special kind of account, right? So there's one address that's holding the funds. So you have no change addresses. You could probably use it with DarkSend, but I haven't really dived into it that much to think about how that would work exactly. But I don't see it being like a huge invasion of privacy.
No, and I suppose you could always send to another address and then DarkSend from an unprotected address. Just as easy as that.
Exactly.
Funds can be seen as they are moved around the network. They just cannot be connected to the individuals or, the individual addresses that are making the transactions. That's correct, right?
Well, in the blockchain, you can see the addresses. The thing is that if you use DarkSend, those addresses can be traced back to you, but you can't send to there's proof of send. You can see the blockchain, the transaction in the blockchain. So this doesn't require a leap of faith by anyone. The transactions are there. It's just impossible to trace it.
Okay. I was just worried about not being able to see large amounts of money being moved around the network, but I see that's actually, DarkSend is still transparent. It's just not, it's just dissociated from the origin, basically.
Yeah, because the anonymization happens outside of the blockchain. That's also an important advantage of Darkcoin, because all the coins do the anonymization in the blockchain. So if the cryptography were broken in the future, you could trace back everything. Whereas in our case, like it has happened outside of the blockchain, there's nothing to decode in the blockchain.
Excellent. Now, what was the reason behind the shift to the Bitcoin 0.93 core? Can you elaborate on that, Evan?
The Litecoin developers have made it very clear that they're not really interested in keeping up with the Bitcoin core client. And I know it's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and they got so incredibly behind that I think they just gave up. So we were trying to get away from that so that we could actually catch up with them, because there's a ton of advancement that was done in the last couple of years that we didn't have access to before this release. So now we can actually keep up. Like we'll have the headless or headers first blocks in the next release, which will be amazing because you'll be able to probably sync the entire blockchain in just a few minutes from multiple master nodes at once. Things like that will make this move way better than where we were at before.
How many people do you have on your team, and how are you maintaining this pace of development?
So we've had a huge influx of developers over the past few months. It's actually been really amazing to see. It's almost 10 right now as of now, and the team in total is about 20 people, including quality assurance people and all of the testers that help us with the releases. The way that we're maintaining it, I do the maintenance for all of the development. So everything comes in through pull requests, and I review all of the code changes there. And then I do this personally full time. So, it's actually my job, and that's been quite helpful because I don't think many of the developers for the other coins are doing this full time. So, I mean, as it's been growing, we've actually been able to keep up with it. And so we have a team. I'm sure we have the second largest team in all of crypto right now.
How have you assembled such a huge team?
I honestly think it's masternodes, because in the beginning, there was, a great number of people that were very technically literate that were interested in Darkcoin. And the masternodes came out, and that gave them an outlet to earn interest on the funds that they had. So now like, say, let's call him Joe. Say Joe's making $500-600 a month off of this. Now he's like, well, I could turn that $500-600 a month into, $1,000 if maybe I dedicate 10 hours a month of development. And I think that dynamic is actually what's helping us to grow so fast, because it gives people incentive to give back. And then there's this like recursive thing happening where the more incentives that the people have, the more they give back, and then the greater the thing grows. And it's just it's starting to happen faster and faster every day. It's pretty amazing.
And so with the establishment of the foundation, how has that come about, and what are the immediate goals? Do you have a roadmap for development of the foundation itself?
Well, it's pretty early in the foundation's life to say what we'll be able to do. Ideally, the foundation should be there to help develop Darkcoin into something much bigger. It should help the development of the code. It should help promote. It should represent Darkcoin wherever is needed. Thing is, we launched recently. Darkcoin is still quite small, and well, the launch of the foundation has been relatively successful for the size of our community, but the foundation still is not funded enough as to do the things that, for example, the Bitcoin Foundation is doing, and paying for developers and that kind of stuff. Right now, we have a limited amount of funds, and we are trying to determine what's the best use for them. It's all going to be spent in making Darkcoin bigger and being sure that it can grow.
Oh, did you have anything to add to that, Evan?
No, the foundation is definitely coming along, though, and it's relatively new. I think we've only had about 3 meetings so far, so we're trying to plan out, and we actually just opened up shop, so yeah, we're coming along, but yeah, things are not very far.
So when it comes to adoption, do you guys have an adoption roadmap?
Yeah, we are trying to stimulate adoption as much as possible. We have some people working on adoption, approaching proactively businesses that accept Bitcoin normally to try to help them to adopt Darkcoin. And we are doing this proactively, calling phones, sending emails, having meetings with them, helping as much as we can. There are several sectors which have shown a deeper interest. Basically, I'm thinking now, for example, the gambling industry. For them, Darkcoin is important, or can be important, because the gaming experience, once you use instant transaction, can change completely. They all tell you that when gamers want to bet on anything, they want their money to be there immediately. So having to wait for an hour for confirmations is a huge deal breaker. In fact, right now, in the next few days, we are going to launch a program to recruit even more people to go to real life events, to educate people on Darkcoin, to go to conferences, to universities, to give talks. We are taking that part really seriously and coordinating the people and giving them the tools to help adoption. Obviously, for adoption to happen, the coin needs to be absolutely perfect. But we are at a point right now in which it's almost there. Most features are working flawlessly. So right now we are going to push a lot to gain more adoption.
Are there any fiat to Darkcoin exchanges available at the moment?
Yeah, there are a few. Not a huge volume in most of them, but you can. Cryptsy is the biggest one,
mm-hmm.
And I think they offer Darkcoin to USD. Bitfinex, that's probably the biggest USD Darkcoin market. I think CEX.io also offers USD to Darkcoin and a few other small ones. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think it would be important to get through that we haven't really talked about is that I really think that sometimes people ask me, why do you get involved? Privacy is so important to you. And I also want to say that your transactions in the blockchain are there forever. There are many players that could do a lot of things with that information. And maybe today is not happening, but it can happen in the future. So I think it's important to take some precautions. And that's why I think that what we are offering is really important. You are going to protect yourself from malicious third parties. You are going to be much more secure if you take care of this. And it's also important that the philosophical part that, I mean, if you know you are being watched, you behave differently. Only for that, it would make sense to use a privacy-centric coin. But there are real risks that you are covering if you use Darkcoin or other technologies that help you protect your privacy. So that's the only thing that I think it's also important to consider. It's not only technology for technology. There's a reason for this, and people should think about it and then act.
I'd like to add something to what Fernando said, if possible.
So there are mixers that allow someone to become anonymous within Bitcoin, but due to the way the network is constructed, none of them are trustless. And it happens all of the time where one of these mixers is actually shut down. So I would avoid using those types of services at all costs. None of them also have been audited by security professionals, people that understand how this stuff works, whereas DarkSend has. So we've taken great care to build this thing in a way where, no one can lose their money.
where it's completely anonymous, or as anonymous as we could possibly make it. And, you know, it'll work for the entire network without, you know, any issues with growth. So I think that we've built like a really good service, and you can't find anything like that within any other crypto.
Thanks for listening. Today's content was provided by Fernando Gutierrez, Evan Duffield, and myself. Ceases did the music, and Richard Toth mixed and mastered. Check out Darkcoin.io and Bitsquare.io for more info. Get me at beyondbitcoinshow@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter @ArthurFalls. I only tweet great stuff. For you LTB folks, the magic word is master. That's MASTER.